On this episode of the Joy of Liberty podcast, we discuss the current Bernie-Biden-Trump dynamic currently facing the 2020 election, Elizabeth Warren's subsequent dropout and her potential involvement in the future of the race, the coronavirus and its potential conspiratorial beginnings, and Senator Charles Schumer and his current war of words with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts. All right, so here we are with another episode of the Joy of Liberty podcast. This is Lee J. Heller reporting from Taiwan, and here I am with my dad, Lee Howard Heller. Hey, Dad, how's it going?
All right, I'm in Kingston, and it was 50 degrees today, finally.
Well, it's been pretty cold today, or in the last couple days in Taiwan, but not nearly that cold. So before we get into the thick of things, I wanted to bring this up, because, I want to try to do something, report, on, stupid stuff I get from the internet. I'm going to find something better name for that. But so Robert Reich basically posted on Twitter and Facebook. He said, "I've said it before and I'll say it again. Bloomberg should have used the $559 million he wasted on campaign ads to pay off the fines and fees keeping hundreds of thousands of Floridians from the polls in 2020. Right? That's pretty succinct. So then I said, I have also been saying this for years now, that billionaires like Bloomberg and others should pay for millions of struggling millennials, including myself, to move to places like Kentucky and South Carolina to vote out Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham. Other states, too. Right. The only way things will ever change is through population shifts. If we are going to need a bunch of people from New York and California to move to the Midwest, but especially the South, it's the only way everything is going to change." Then some ass said, "How about you just get a job, pay your own move?" And then I said, because I live in Taiwan as a teacher, because at least here they pay us a decent living wage, respect, and low-cost quality health care as part of their national health system. I dare the United States to do better. Boom. Headshot. So, you know what I mean? It's that same, that frustrates me so much. It's that same try harder, or even more condescending, stop being poor. I think a big issue in America for a long time has been the equation of that you're poor because you're either just lazy or don't work hard enough or unvirtuous. And if you're a super successful billionaire, you, by extension, are virtuous, which is more often than not the exact opposite is true.
That goes back to the Reaganomics when they demonized welfare mothers.
Right, like they're the problem.
Yeah, like they want to be on welfare.
Right.
Like that's their choice.
And then nobody cares about the billions of dollars that corporations get in subsidies for nothing. We're literally giving, like Amazon getting tax rebates. We're literally paying super successful companies money for nothing. Literally.
Right.
And then they complain about poor people. And yes, there's always going to be waste. There's always going to be abuse. But whatever amount of money that is, wasted or abused on the welfare side, that has not even in comparison the amount of billions and even trillions of dollars that is exploited by the wealthy and the corporations in the United States.
Right. So there's plenty of money.
Right. Like I said, Dad, Michael, if Bloomberg really wanted to, he could basically fix Flint in like a month if he wanted to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're going to try to buy your way into the presidency, you might as well buy it in a good way. He could have gone to all these communities, helped uplift them, build things, create jobs in these cities, in these states. But no, he'd rather just make ads for like New York City and LA people and San Francisco people to make for him for 5 times the standard value.
Well, one thing that came out of this whole debacle is that you can buy your way into a campaign to be president. You can buy your way in because the Democratic National Committee sold the space to Bloomberg, out and out changed the rules, about the plurality and majority. Why not? You changed the rules to let Bloomberg in because he bought his way in. How much did he pay the DNC?
The funny thing is, from what I heard, it wasn't even that much. He basically just gave them a few $100,000, and they let him on the stage.
Right. Yeah. So he bought his way into the program, and tough noogies on Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and all the others that ran and had to leave because of money.
Right. Well, at least
leaving us with 3 presidential candidates now, all in their late 70s, all white, all men, all of who would be finishing their term in their 80s.
Well,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I would like to think that this is probably the last time in history that something like this is going to happen.
I hope so.
Right? Like,
it's pretty. I mean, if you step back and you look at that, wait a minute. All 3 of them are the same demographic, and they're all going to be in their 80s at the end of their term. What the frick?
But it is worth mentioning that even though they're basically the same elderly, old white men, but all 3 of them represent 3 distinct, political worldviews. You have
Yes and no. They're from a political standpoint and an economic standpoint, yes. From a cultural standpoint, no. They're all the same.
Well, explain that. What does that mean? Because I don't agree.
They're 3 doddering old men.
Yes, they're 3 doddering old men, but they dodder in different ways.
Right, economically and politically, yes. But culturally, you think that they can maintain a following like AOC has on the way she uses social media? No. They don't even know how to hire a person to do that for them.
Well,
what does Trump do? I'm gonna Twitter and talk directly to the American people. Oh my God, I'm so disinterested in never reading one of his tweets.
But you can't deny to say that it didn't help. If he didn't have Twitter and Facebook and The Apprentice, he'd never be president right now.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying. Like I said, this is the last time, at least we can only hope, this is the last time where it's going to be down to 3 old white guys. But you can't deny that they're not, like I said, like, people try to give Bernie criticism for his heart attack, but he's still really sharp mentally.
Right. I'm not saying he's not capable and competent. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, like, there was one demonstrator at the Capitol building that day. You mean to tell me 350 million people, and this is the best we can end up with?
Yes, Dad. The answer is clearly yes. That is
terrible.
Well, that's what I was saying. The Bernie's counting on all these new voters to come support him, and they clearly didn't come out to support him on Super Tuesday. And I even say in jest, it's like, look, if him saying he's going to legalize weed on day 1 throughout the entire country isn't enough to get all the young people to come out to vote for him, I don't know what else you can do. Honestly, I really don't know what else you can say or do. And, it comes, again, from the beginning, he said, I can't do this myself. It's going to take all of us. And if the people don't come out, then it's on them. And if they allow, a rabid dog to go against a senile old man, then that's their fault.
It is. Again, I'm embarrassed and saddened by my countrymen. It's the second time in my life. It's like when it was a landslide victory to re-elect Richard Nixon. Think about that.
Right.
Think about that statement. A landslide victory to re-elect Richard Nixon. That's where my countrymen were at, and now we see where they're at with their, like you said, you don't want to vote? Fine, then shut the fuck up and go suffer and stop complaining.
Well, like I said, let's pull back the let's I can't think of the right phrase. Let's just pull back the gloss and like rip them down to their bare minimum what they represent. So you basically got a choice. You got on Trump's side, you have like a vain, spoiled, malignant narcissist, wannabe fascist dictator who's either pretending that he's lost his mind or actually has lost his mind and is probably barely literate. Right?
Right.
Then you have Joe Biden, who's basically a neoliberal establishment figurehead for the past, decades in Washington, D.C., has contributed to many of the reasons that caused so much pain in the country that allowed someone like Trump to become president in the first way. And then you have another elderly man who's been a progressive, some might say socialist. The worst people will call him is a communist sympathizer for 40 years and has advocated the same principles and positions for the entire course of his career. And only now have things gotten so bad that enough people are willing to give him consideration, particularly in the youth and working class communities. So those people just in their rawest form. So, and that's not counting, like I said, like Bernie had a heart attack. Biden's brain is melting on TV. I mean, like I said, the day he won Super Tuesday, he got his wife and his sister confused. Like, seriously? Seriously.
And that he was running for the Senate.
Right. Like is the Democratic Party just going to pretend that that's not a problem? Because, like, again, we'll talk about it, but he will get destroyed by Trump. Trump will humiliate him and destroy him on the debate stage, and it will not be funny. It will be very, very sad. So
Bernie has to take him down before that.
Right. Well, that's what
Bernie has to play the role of eviscerator, like Elizabeth Warren did with Bloomberg.
Right.
He has to eviscerate Joe Biden so that we don't end up with the president eviscerating him.
Well, I agree. The analogy that I know, and that's going to be the hardest thing for him because he's always and deep down, I really feel like he is a nice guy, and he doesn't want to do that, and that has been his biggest problem. At least a lot of even his own supporters have been saying he's got to get tough and aggressive because this is it. I mean, you're fighting against the whole Democratic machine, and they won't give you any consideration, so you can't give them any consideration. And he really has to, like the analogy I use, it's like at the end of a war movie, and you're being invaded by an overwhelming force, and you're either going to get killed or captured or tortured. So do you want your friend to just kill you quickly, quietly, and softly, or are you going to allow yourself to be tortured by your enemies? And I feel like Bernie destroying Joe Biden on a debate stage is a hell of a lot better than allowing Trump to do it.
Right.
And that really is, yeah.
Because, Uncle Joe, everybody likes Uncle Joe, and from a cultural standpoint, I understand that. But from a political standpoint, and what do I want to say, strong leadership, he's a loser.
Right.
He was so badly losing this race until South Carolina, when the black leadership stepped in, and it's the people's votes that have put Biden on top. It's not Biden. He did nothing. He did nothing to earn his leading the race.
Right. He did it by he won in spite of himself.
He won in Massachusetts, Lee J.
Right.
What
No.
did he do to gain the vote in Massachusetts? You know what he did? Well, I'm a nice guy and the blacks like me.
And
Okay.
I remember. No. Remember. Oh, I was Obama's VP. Remember.
Yeah.
Remember. That's it. That's his whole campaign. And again, it was at the last possible minute. Like he won the one primary in history. He's been running for president for 30 years, and this is the first primary he won. And that's when that one primary that we all knew he was going to win anyways, that's when they decided to go all in on Biden. It was like in spite of himself. Like he should have failed out a long time ago. I think he's just like you said, the majority of people just like, I don't care. He's generically safe and comfortable enough with enough people. Like I said, he's Uncle Joe. Like, I think a majority of the country at least likes and appreciates him and admires him as a person, his politics aside.
Right.
As a person, he's well liked enough by enough Americans. Unfortunately, the Joe Biden of 2020 isn't the same Joe Biden as 2008 or even 2012. He's clearly showing some decline in his mental capabilities, and I don't want to say that. I wish it wasn't the case. And that has nothing to do with his horrible, horrible track record of neoliberal policies that have basically destroyed, helped destroy, the middle and working class of this country.
Right, and on a surface observation, do we want to just go back to what life was before Trump? That's it?
Some people do.
That's all that we want, so that the next time around, it won't be Trump, it'll be Trump 2.0.
Well, that's what people like AOC are saying, and that's what I agree with. I think I used the analogy. It's like Biden will put the Trump cancer into remission, but it's not gonna cure the cancer. It's just gonna go away. But the cancer will come back, and this time you might not be able to get rid of it. I think a worse, more like AOC said, I don't want to copy her words, but I'm paraphrasing what she said. She basically said, if you replace Trump with a Biden, that's not going to change the problems that led to Trump in the first place. Then a worse, more sophisticated Trump who will be more effective and competent in their authoritarianism and their fascism will come along, and then we'll be in serious trouble. Who
will have read books besides Mein Kampf.
Right. Or knows how to read it all. Like, I know you're glad that this election showed that billionaires just can't buy elections straight out. They can buy your way on the stage, but they can't buy the office. Like, thank God that Bloomberg was as charismatic as, like, a wet paper bag left in your toilet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he had zero... Like,
paper towels in the toilet.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Don't put paper... yeah, he has as much charisma as a paper towel jammed in your toilet. And, you know, at least...
Even even though the sign in the restaurant bathroom says, please don't put the paper towels in the toilet.
Right.
People still do.
That Bloomberg's race for the president was the equivalent of that. And like I said, if he at least had been even slightly more charismatic and didn't have 64 NDAs with women he apparently may or may not have sexually harassed, for God's sakes. But that, like I said, thankfully he was just a disliked person. And that's the opposite. He's the opposite of Biden. At least Biden has this quality that people just overall like him as a person, which is...
And let's give some credit to Elizabeth Warren, who just publicly stood up and eviscerated him.
Right. That definitely ended his campaign real fast.
Yeah, that was it.
Well,
that's what Bernie has to do with Biden, and force my countrymen kicking and screaming to support Bernie.
Well, that's the thing. And that's what's so frustrating, because if the Democratic Party and the establishment really actually cared about getting rid of Trump and cared more about saving the country than their stock portfolios, and they just got behind Bernie and supported him, it'd be a wipeout. It would be the opposite. It would be a reverse McGovern. If they put all of their resources and machine behind Bernie, it would be it would be inverted McGovern. He'd carry like 90% of the states. It would be insane, and it would be a great mandate to go forward. Like, let's move past the past, past the neoliberalism of the past, past the oncoming Trump. Let's just move on together at a more, progressive and prosperous America for all Americans. Boom. But, what happened? They said after Super Tuesday, all those stocks went up. The Dow Jones went up like 900 points. And sadly, that's really what it's all about in the end. Because as bad as Trump is, all of those DC peddlers and hacks and pundits and whatever you want to call them, all the DC working people that work in that sphere of influence, they'll be fine financially if Trump's still president, more or less.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be fine.
Oh, absolutely.
They'll still get, like I said...
They want his program.
Right. Like I said, that's why in theory they all would have loved Bloomberg. It's like, yeah, Bloomberg, he's an authoritarian asshole, arrogant billionaire who has like 64, harassment claims against him. But at least he keeps that stuff quiet most of the time. He's not all in your face about his horribleness. At least he'll pretend a little bit to not be such a bad person. That's all they want. They want Trump's policies without the Trump being such an asshole about it.
Right.
So let's talk about Elizabeth Warren, because yes, she eviscerated Bloomberg during those debates, which all the progressives are like, well, where's that Elizabeth Warren been this whole time? I think her problem is that she just got consumed by the dark side of the force, so to speak. Like, she probably got a bunch of Hillary, Obama staffers on her campaign and told her to play this thing. Like, when she tried to accuse Bernie of being a sexist, that just didn't sit well with a lot of people. A lot of people saw that for what it was. It was really disingenuous. And then she started shitting on Bernie, and it didn't really work out for her. And look what it ended up doing for her. It's that paradox. These people. It's like when McCain chose Palin as his VP. It's like these people are told things by their advisors. Like, look, if you want to win, you got to do this, this, and this. You're not going to like it, but this is what you need to do to win. And all that horrible stuff they do, which contradicts their whole legacy and their whole their platforms and their policies and everything they've worked for, they just throw it in the trash for some cheap points to win, and it causes them to lose. I don't know why they keep still doing this. It's the same thing over and over again.
Well, what was it this year? We taxpayers are going to be paying $800 billion in interest on the national debt.
Right.
800 billion, not 80 billion. 800 billion.
And that's just on paying the interest of the debt of the money we borrowed.
Right, that's not paying the principal.
Right.
It's not paying it down. That's just covering it. So when you tell me that there's not enough money to have a national health plan, which, by the way, will cost less than what we have now, I don't understand why that hasn't been made clear. You want to keep talking about the $38 trillion it's going to cost. Well, what is it costing without it?
Right. Well, that's because, it's like how many times they ask the same question at debates. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Like a broken record when they ask, well, how are we supposed to sustain the overpriced price gouge system we have now? No one ever said.
Right.
That's the problem, is the media is always asking these questions from a right-wing point of view. Like, the current system is obviously unsustainable, and now with this coronavirus, they should be capitalizing on this now. Like, we're only as healthy as our most disadvantaged are taken care of. Like, if all these people can't afford to get tested for the coronavirus, they're not going to, if they're going to get a $3,000 bill that they can't pay. So they're just not going to get tested, and more people have potential to be exposed to it. And speaking of, policies, you know what Trump said? Two things that happened. He says, what's one of his responses to the coronavirus? Do you know?
Sit at home and miraculously you'll get better and go back to work while you're getting better.
Not just that, but basically because it's been bad for the economy, he wants to do more tax cuts.
Right.
So with your $800 billion, interest payments, they still want to cut more taxes, which makes no sense. But not even that. It says, I just read an article that says that the Trump administration is considering just paying hospitals money to make to do the corona testing. So what's that called? Socialism. Right? They don't. It's.
But Lee J, who's going to get the contract?
Exactly. They're just going to. Oh, how much theft and gouging there's going to be with that?
Unbelievable.
Oh God, it made me sick. Luckily, I'm in Taiwan with universal health care.
Pence is in Minnesota visiting 3M, who's going to make 30 million masks.
Right.
And how much are we going to be paying for each mask?
Well, they probably cost like less than 30 cents to make, so they're probably going to charge like $5 per mask.
Right.
Right.
So you should go buy some 3M stock.
Right. But no, Dad, it's the welfare moms are the problem. Those poor women working 3 jobs to feed their families.
It's the 5-year-old rapists from Mexico that have to stand in court and defend themselves.
Oh, can like that stuff is like legitimately insane. You know about that? Those immigration courts, they're having like toddlers that can't even speak on the stand testifying in court.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you figure this would be like some UN international like task force would be able to stop stuff like that from happening. I don't like this. If people really knew, I think that's part of the problem, is that people are just so. It's a combination of people are just so desperately struggling to survive, and the constant barrage of like the mainstream corporate media telling them, giving them a certain perspective, that they just don't realize how much they're getting taken advantage of and how screwed up things really are. I mean, you don't even have to go into the whole like Fox News worldview perspective. They're given a certain angle, but we know MSNBC has their own angle. Like, they've been Bernie hating from the beginning, for the most part. At least Fox News is transparent in their disdain of the left wing.
Well, I don't know what to tell you, EJ. The media has failed again, complete failure. The Fifth Estate is just another corporate leg on the table of corruption. The world. Listen to this. I have a source I don't want to divulge because of safety. There's a world cover-up on the cause of the coronavirus, the COVID-19. It's a worldwide cover-up. They've come up with a story that it's from eating bats. Oh, God.
Was that true? That just sounds like a joke. I remember I saw some crazy guy on Fox News saying, well, these Chinese eating them bats. We can't let them come into it. Yeah.
That's the cover-up story to find the investigation as to the origin of this virus. They've come up with this, it's from eating bat soup. Eating bats. The Chinese eat bats. And the bats were the cause, the original cause of this virus. Not the scientists in Harvard that set up the labs in Wuhan that was funded by the Defense Department.
Right.
Whoa, wait a minute. What is the Defense Department involved with virus, level 4 virus laboratory in the University of Wuhan? Why are they involved? And why are they arresting the guy that actually set it up? So, to me, the Defense Department is the military, and the only reason that they would be interested is to either come up with a defense against bioweapons or making a bioweapon.
Well,
and that's a current worldwide cover-up.
Well,
where's Kennedy's brain? Where's Kennedy's brain?
Yes, they did. They lost Kennedy's brain.
JFK's brain.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It seems that in my 70th year, what I always knew was yellow journalism. They called it the turn of around Teddy Roosevelt's time. Yellow journalism. And yeah, the founding fathers, they ragged on each other. But the cover-ups, the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, Colin Powell showing the UN these mobile chemical missile cards with sketches and drawings of them that did not exist. The Gulf of Tonkin fake attack on America in the Vietnam War, the Spanish-American War, the sinking of the Maine. I mean, it's a permanent fixture.
Even the Lusitania was a scam too, because about that whole story for World War I, that famous book.
World War I.
The Germans even advertised in newspapers. They said, "Please do not go on these boats because we're going to start shooting them." And then they shot down. They sunk the Lusitania because they said there were weapons on there, and there actually were weapons on there. So we basically goaded them into attacking us to justify going into we're going off on the crazy conspiracy tangent, but it's not really conspiracy because
it's fact. It's fact.
Most of except for the JFK brain thing, which no one's ever going to admit to, but Remember, what was it McNamara? It was in 2004. Basically, admitted that it was they didn't. It just never even happened. It was just fake. Like
Right.
they just made it up.
Yeah.
And just like you said, Spanish American War, that was another fake. They said the Spanish blew it up, but it was just like the boiler overheated or something. Lusitania, like it's just lies after lies after lies. And why does anybody think it should ever be any different?
Right.
You know what? Especially the Iraq War, like Colin Powell just got scammed himself. They just used him up to use up his credibility to sell it. I think
Right.
in hindsight, I think he generally believed what they were saying, but they were just using him, and that's why he quit afterwards.
Right.
You know what's even worse is that we have such a short attention span. And it's pathetic because, Rush Limbaugh, now he's the recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Well, he recently did a show where he basically tried to blame the deep state Democrats for forcing George W. Bush to do the Iraq War based on lies and false intelligence.
Oh, it's the Democrats?
Yeah, it's the Democrats' fault.
Okay.
They made Bush do it. Like, this is I don't even like. What do you even say to that? I don't even like. It just hurts my brain to even say that. All right, so what does that mean then? What's your standing on the virus then? Because my understanding is the official story right now is it came from the Wuhan part of China. And just supposedly, coincidentally, aside from the fact that they arrested that Harvard University professor who just happened to be assisting the Wuhan, University of Technology with their laboratories, and he just happens to be an expert in nanotechnology. By the way, they don't equate together at all. So you tell me, fill in the blanks on that one. What's that all about?
It is what it is. It wasn't just Lieber. They arrested 3, and there's no coverage anywhere in the news. Are they under house arrest? Are they on bail? Well, what's the status of that case where the FBI went in and arrested them? Last I heard, there was $1 million bail on Dr. Lieber. I don't know about the others. I don't even know their names. So, where's the journalists? Where's the media? Where's the Fifth Estate?
Well, like I said, I never heard anybody on any sort of broadcast media, even the online, independent media, mention it. I saw a few articles online about that one guy, the one Harvard guy that they got, and that's it. And then it went away. They said he was arrested for lying about working for the Chinese, basically, and all the money he got. That's the official story.
Right, and that's as far as it goes.
Right.
And if you Google it now, there's a couple of extra, a little bit more facts available. But, I mean, you and I have to go digging for it. Lester Holt's not talking about it.
Ugh. Lester Holt. Go back and finish your college degree, you sap. Let me see if I can find some information on this guy. Yeah. He's an American chemist. Charles Lieber is an expert on chemistry and nanotechnology. He is recognized as the leading chemist in the decade from 2000 to 2010. So, and this guy was working for the Chinese, basically. And you said the Department of Defense was supporting him as well?
Yes.
So, yeah, you figure someone would be talking about this. So here.
Yeah. No, they're too interested showing how many states left in the primaries are going to go for Biden.
Right. No.
And how Bernie's not going to get any more delegates.
Right. It's pathetic.
That they want to.
It's pathetic. No, Dad. Like seriously, he literally was working with the Wuhan University of Technology.
Right.
That
right.
is.
Oh, that's just a coincidence. That's because those Wuhan people eat bats.
Right, and he just happened to be, working with them in their chemistry laboratories. Okay. Sure. Just like they happened to lose his brain.
So, to me, what's the difference between a conspiracy and a conspiracy theory?
Okay, so here, since we're going off on this tangent, let's be clear. A conspiracy in and of its conspiracy theories have been morphed into this, like, in the cultural zeitgeist of being basically like any insane claim that's not based on any sort of provable fact, like lizard people own pedophile pizza shop owned by Hillary Clinton in Washington D.C. Like, you'd like to think people would want a little bit of actual evidence to support that. Now, anybody can say anything is, evidence. Like, here's an X-ray I have. To me, that's a conspiracy theory.
All right, now compare that to a conspiracy.
So, a conspiracy is real. All conspiracy, like, let's look up the actual definition of conspiracy, right? Because conspiracy is an actual term, and it's used in court because, when they say people are guilty of conspiracy.
Right.
Right, so let's be clear on what conspiracy actually means. So here's a very basic definition. A secret plan by a group to do something unlawful or harmful. So, put it this way.
Key in that definition is secret. It's a secret.
Right.
Right. That doesn't make it false. It's kept a secret. And what you have is a conspiracy, worldwide conspiracy on the origin of the coronavirus. It's a conspiracy because the governments have to be coordinating secretly to keep the facts from the public.
Right. Well,
that's my position.
Well, like I said, conspiracy theories are, the term has been, ruined to basically see that any conspiracy theory is, cuckoo for cuckoo puffs, batshit crazy, whatever you want to say. But it's not necessarily the case. Just like you said, people decades ago would have thought that, the Gulf of Tonkin thing was a conspiracy, but then they just admitted that it was a lie. So, conspiracy theory, like I said, some conspiracy theories, like anything Alex Jones basically says is a conspiracy theory in the sense that it's completely batshit insane based on nothing. But there are some conspiracy theories that are real. It's the hard part. Everything in our modern day society and media, it's all about simplifying and, reducing things to their most basic point. So you reduce everything that everything's the same.
Right. I know what you mean.
So, like right now, this whole Wuhan virus thing, some people think you're talking like a crackpot. And you may or may not be wrong, but there certainly is a lot of, circumstantial and coincidental occurrence of events that are happening right now. And it is strange that whole thing with Lieber was very downplayed by the media. You figure something like that would get more attention, that, like the head of Harvard's chemistry department who happened to be working with the Wuhan University of Technology was arrested by the government for lying, while this global virus is going around where it came from the Wuhan region of China. Like,
Right. So so as my source said, it's all meant to keep everything ambiguous. Ambiguous. We're not sure. Right now, the world is in a panic. And you would think there would be coverage, hard coverage, to find out what the hell, where'd this come from? What's going on? But no, don't don't talk about that. Let the presidents tell us, oh, it's not so bad. You can sit at home and you'll get better, and you can go to work while you're getting better.
yeah.
That's the information we're being given
Well, here.
by our president.
Here's the thing. I'm just reading a Washington Post article, which the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, by the way. And it said that fringe theories, to be sure, have been widely floated on both sides of the Pacific. Senator Tom Cotton, Republican from Arkansas, speculated last month on Fox News that the virus may have escaped from a Wuhan lab that researched dangerous pathogens, repeating a popular theory that has been debunked by scientists. So basically, you're agreeing with that guy.
With Cotton?
It sounds like it, right? He says that...
Sounds like it.
So that means you're in an agreement with an asshole Republican senator.
Yeah, the facts are the facts.
So how come it's so? If it says it's been debunked by scientists, and again, it's very vague. Who's debunking it? How many people debunked it?
No, it hasn't.
So what's that? Just the Washington Post just being liars?
That's the fucking worldwide cover-up at work, Lee J.
All right.
Don't you understand?
No. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm just challenging you, trying to make you sound as less of a crackpot as possible. So
call me a crackpot. I don't care. It's clear that there's a worldwide cover-up conspiracy to block as long as they can. Eventually, it'll all come out. What the cause was? The cause was a American scientist, partially funded by the Defense Department. Hello? What does the Defense Department have to do with influenza?
Well, let me ask you this then. Why was the government basically subsidizing or supporting an American scientist to work with the Chinese on this virus? What's the point?
Look, I have no idea. I have no resources other than one source of information that is tied to Harvard research programs.
Right.
But why this is being covered up, I think, is for political reasons, to keep secret or hidden for as long as possible the fact that it was the American military and science community that caused the virus. That created the virus.
So
how about that?
I think this, of course, that's certainly possible. Just based on my limited information I have right now. So here, like I said, the problem with conspiracy theories is that you can go down a hole that anything's possible. That was the whole thing with 9/11 conspiracies. People went off the deep end, they thought there weren't real planes or holograms. It gets into all sorts of crazy shit. So from my understanding, the government or Department of Defense was basically subsidizing the Harvard guy, right?
Yes.
They were giving him money. We don't know why.
They were funding it. I don't know that they were giving him money.
Right.
I think he was getting his money from the Chinese.
See, that's the thing. It might be like one of those. It sounds like if that's what's going on, it sounds like a deep, like a double cross kind of situation. If that makes sense, because
Right.
I think the official policy is that, or the official story is they arrested him for basically lying about getting money from China, which may or may not be true. But from what it sounds like more or less this guy was kind of acting like a double agent. You know, he was getting sponsored or supported by the government, and then he's going around selling his services to the Wuhan University of Technology, and things got out of hand, and something they were working on in China got out of the lab, and now it's out, and the government's like, oh shit, this guy's involved, we gotta lock his ass up before they find out we were responsible.
Right.
Because
where's a statement? Where's a statement from Lieber's attorneys?
Right. Let me see if I can find that, because that to me that's kind of as far as the world of crazy crackpot conspiracy goes, that makes the most sense. He was probably being supported by the government to research shit, and then the Chinese are like, "Hey, man, come work with us. We'll give you a bunch of money," and then they did.
And the fact that this new pandemic is an influenza, which is a large family of viral diseases, but this one is unlike all the others in this contagious stage before symptoms. That's something completely new. And how did that? And why is that? Why is that? Why are we contagious and not knowing we have it?
Right.
If you got Ebola, you know you got it. You got the flu, you know you've got it. But here we are with billions of people walking around, being contagious and spreading the virus, and nobody knows about it.
Okay, so here's an article from the Daily Beast, which is a more or less kind of, I would say, legitimate enough, news source. It's one of the, like, you always hear them pop up on the news media. They're journalists. A top Harvard scientist was charged Tuesday with lying to the Pentagon and the National Institute of Health about his involvement in a program run by the Chinese government and a Chinese university. A federal criminal complaint says Charles Lieber gave false statements. That's where they get you on the lie, unless you're Donald Trump, apparently. Giving false statements about his participation in the Thousand Talents program, which U.S. officials say is a conduit for economic espionage. The filing also states that Lieber, chair of Harvard's Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology, raked in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in salary and living expenses from the Wuhan University of Technology, along with $1.5 million to build a laboratory in China.
To build a laboratory.
Right.
Not to assist, but to build the laboratory.
Right. And so as far as I'm concerned, that this isn't the conspiracy stuff. This is the stuff that's known and out in the open. All right. Here, check this out. The New York Times reports that the feds have also charged two other Harvard-affiliated scientists, cancer researcher, I'm going to say this name wrong, Zhaozong Zhang, who allegedly stole cells from Boston Hospital, and former Boston University physicist, Yang Jingyi, who allegedly lied about being a lieutenant in the People's Liberation Army. The charges are part of a growing FBI crackdown on scientific research theft at U.S. universities and laboratories. Well, shit.
Well, shit. And oh, by the way, the world is facing a pandemic about what originated with what you just reported. And nobody anywhere, in any country, in any media is following that story.
because
Why?
because because too many people in too many positions of powers are involved. That's why. Like imagine, okay, Dad, like I said, imagine AM Joy going on her show on MSNBC and saying, "Breaking news, it's revealed that the US government in conjunction with the Chinese government through Harvard University professor Lieber created the coronavirus." You think they're going to you think they're going to say that on TV? No. Cuz that's basically what it sounds like if you break it down. If the government was
Yes.
if the US government was subsidizing this Lieber guy and he was being subsidized by the Chinese government, then that claim or that statement is correct. That the US Department of Defense was a witting or unwitting co-conspirator, so to speak, in creating the virus. So that's why as soon as they figured it out, they're like, "Oh shit." And they arrested the guy, and then we'll never hear about him again. He's either it's like
This reminds me of the day I was driving on the I-95 past Fort Lauderdale Airport, and an Air Iran jet took off. The airport was completely closed. All airports in America were closed. But this plane took off right over me. When you're on I-95 passing Fort Lauderdale Airport, the planes go right over you. And I was there to see that. I'm having the same feeling about this knowledge that we're discussing now. And it'll come out eventually. They finally knew that the Bin Laden family was being evacuated by the Bushes. Remember that?
and why on an Air Iran plane? That's the most crazy part of it all.
Why? Because nobody else was allowed to fly. And the Iranians said, well, we'll fly. We'll send our jet over there.
That's so bizarre. And I mean, only the world has to just take you on your word for that, because I'm pretty sure you're the only person who saw that.
Well, there were other cars on the road, but I don't know if they were noticing it.
Didn't
I mean, it flies right over your head, and it was weird because the airport was closed. There was no planes coming or landing or taking off.
And as far as I know, Air Iran isn't even allowed to fly in the U.S. at all. So that means they had to let them fly in.
And aren't the Iranians against the Saudis?
I thought so. I think Dad, it all comes down to what George Carlin said all those years ago. He said, "It's a big club and you ain't in it." I really think that's what it is. Like, in the end, none of these people care what religion they are or what tribe they're from. But if you got a lot of money, you can go to Epstein's pedo island too. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's really what it's about. So I'm glad we got that. I totally forgot about that story. So didn't you try to call a radio station or something when you saw the Air Iran plane?
I did. I called when I got to work. I called the local radio station and told them what I had just seen, and that was the end of that.
So they didn't do anything with it?
No.
I don't think anybody would. I wish. Yeah, that's the thing with the world of fake news and deep fake. No one's going to believe anybody about anything anymore.
Well, today I could, if it was today, I could have taken out my cell phone and taken a picture.
Right. So, man, I feel like I'm getting my head's imploding on itself talking about all this conspiracy stuff. So, on face value, it sounds like the coronavirus was made in China by this Harvard guy who's paying him big bucks while the government was subsidizing him. So, do you think that the U.S. government was involved with that, or he just double-crossed them?
I would say they were involved.
Really?
Yeah.
That's even more extreme than me, because what purpose would the U.S. government have for making a virus?
The same reason they had to destroy the nerve gas warehouses in the desert, that the U.S. had accrued chemical weapons for contingency plans.
What contingency plans?
Hey, if they're gonna use chemical warfare, we better have something to counter it. It's
Okay.
it's the old nuclear proliferation. The only way to stop being nuked is to have nukes yourself.
Right. Okay.
So tell me that the military is not interested in biotechnic weapons.
Okay, I'll give you that. There's always going to be some guy that says, was that famous line from Doctor Strangelove when they're having the conversation in the end, was it George C. Scott's like, we cannot allow a mine shaft gap. When the world's all blown up and everybody's living underground, we have to have the better mine shaft than the Soviets do. So I get what you're saying. There's always going to be some guy in the room that says, well, if they're going to have a horrible contagion virus, we need to have one too.
Right.
Ugh. So
that's getting into theories.
Right.
But my challenge to that is, do you think, again, it's just an opinion, that the U.S. military doesn't have programs to follow biotechnology weapons, whether in defensive or in strategic? That the CIA, not even the CIA, the military, the Defense Department, isn't handling programs and investigations concerning biotechnical weapons?
No.
They're just sitting on their own.
I'm pretty sure they have a division somewhere hidden in the bunker dedicated specifically to research and development for biological warfare. I'm sure that's there.
Okay. I don't have evidence. I can't give you evidence.
That's the whole point, though. We know they've done it in the past.
Right.
And you have to be naive to think that why wouldn't they be doing at least research? And again,
I heard one of the health officials screaming on the radio that there should be, right now, there should be a Manhattan Project on fighting this strange new pandemic. And I heard that and I said, well, there probably is, but we wouldn't know it.
Right. Well, that's the thing. They probably do have the smartest people they could find, locked inside a bunker or a rented floor in a hotel in Arlington, Virginia somewhere, trying to figure out what to do. But so what you're saying? So it basically it got out of the cage on accident. Basically, on the Chinese side.
Right.
See, the way I see this specific situation, though, is that they were subsidizing this professor, and then this guy just sold out to the Chinese and to help them make the virus there. It escaped in the Wuhan region for a reason, where he just happened to be working at. Why isn't the media talking about this? You figured that would mean something. So it wasn't necessarily a double cross. It was he was working for them. The Lieber guy was working for the government on biological warfare, and the Chinese are like, "Hey, man, we'll give you some money. Come build a lab for us in Wuhan. Why do you want me to build a lab for you? Don't ask questions. Here's the money."
Right.
And then when the virus broke out, they're like they government basically retrace the steps and like, oh shit, it's this guy. We gotta arrest his ass real fast and lock him away. Well, what do we get him for? Just say he lied about taking money from the Chinese. Okay, case closed. He's gone. That's the end of it. Don't ask any questions.
That's the last we're going to hear from him.
Exactly. So the way I see it, the U.S. government might not have.
No. He's probably going to get the virus and die.
Oh no! Oh. Because, see, the way I see it, that he was probably working for, like, the Department of Defense Biowarfare Division and just also happened to make something for the Chinese. Because the Chinese have their own reasons for wanting a horrible virus. And it's not just...
Right.
And it's not just to kill Americans, if that's their plan.
Right.
Because that's a whole other story. Because no one wants to admit it. But even if you look back at their history, like... Was it Xi and the Chinese Communist Party really wouldn't care if like 300 million Chinese died in a week? They would just prefer if they were Uyghurs.
Right.
And that's kind of...
They got more than enough people, and now their economy is going to be suffering. So the less people, the easier it is to handle.
Right. Like that it's like horrible to hear that, but I really feel like that's the truth. So
chairman for life.
Yep, we're backtracking. He's chairman for life now. Remember Bloomberg said he's not a dictator. He works for the Politburo. Ugh. It's so... I'm sorry, I didn't want to go back to that, but it's just like, it's such nonsense. Everyone's shitting on Bernie like, hey, he said Cuba did something nice. He's a communist. And it's like, well, yeah, Fidel Castro was an asshole dictator, but he got his people to read. Sorry if that's inconvenient with reality. And then when you try to shit on Bernie for supposedly saying a nice thing about Cuba, which is the exact same thing your beloved Obama said, by the way, literally the same thing. And then you have Trump, metaphorically sucking dick of Saudi Arabia and saying he fell in love with Kim Jong-un, communist dictator of North Korea. And you got Bloomberg saying Xi's not a dictator. So Chinese communists are good and Cuban communists are bad. These people can get fucked, as far as I'm concerned. You know what? It's just so disingenuous.
We need to raise Teddy from the grave and Thomas Jefferson. We need some positive geniuses to come back and help us.
What? And yeah, we really need some Teddy. I'm telling you, that's what Bernie needs to go full on Teddy Roosevelt at the next debate with Biden. He needs to go full bull moose on his ass. We need to spread that out. Yes, we need to spread it out. Look, I'll tell that story real fast. So, when Teddy Roosevelt graduated Harvard, he immediately ran to be in the New York State House, I believe. Might have been a State House or State Senate. I want to figure this out. And because he was Teddy, he was stirring up the shit for all the old-timey, politicos in Albany. And was it it was the Speaker of the House. The New York Speaker of the House was giving him a hard time, and they was getting everybody to gang up on him. And I forgot exactly what happened or what went down specifically, but the Speaker of the New York State House was giving the New York State Assembly, there you go. He was getting such shit from the Speaker of the House, from everybody else, and then Teddy Roosevelt basically told him, if you don't back off, I'm going to punch you in the balls. And then he never had to deal with him again. Okay? So we need some bull moose progressivism right now. It's the only way We can, like, do you really think Bernie Sanders, if he found out that Department of Defense was working with the Chinese to create a virus to kill everybody, he'd let that shit stand? No. He's like, what the hell is going on here? This shit is shut down. You're all fired. And anybody who's responsible is going to jail. This is insane. Like, can't we just... Oh, God. All right, Dad. So I think we'll close with that. We just need to tell everybody we need to get more bull moose style if we're going to win this thing.
Right.
And again, if anybody tries to say, well, you said nice things about Castro and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, yeah, I don't take billions of dollars from the Chinese Communist government or say I'm in love with a Chinese or a Korean communist dictator or take money and let the Saudi Arabia regime commit genocide in Yemen. So let's have a real conversation.
And hack up American journalists.
Right. Like, seriously? It's so it's so bad. He needs to get, let's just hope we need to tweet out at him and all of his supporters and surrogates. We need to tell AOC, Nina Turner, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, all those people that he needs to let the bull moose come out.
Right.
Everybody thinks you're a grumpy old man anyways. You might as well go all in on it and expose everyone for what it really is.
No, Bernie, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Right. This debate, I mean, there's some primaries that are happening, but this debate that's coming up will basically be his last stand. It's not going to be it's not going to be nice. It's not going to be pretty, but he has to basically eviscerate Joe Biden on a debate stage. And again, if anything, it's not just for his presidency or his campaign, and it's not just for us as a country, but it's really doing Joe Biden a favor. I mean, like I said, anything that Bernie does to him will not come anywhere close as to how horrible Trump will do to him on a debate stage.
Right.
So it's like it would be an act of mercy.
Right, a mercy killing.
Yeah. All right, so let's tell everybody it's time to go full bull moose.
I agree.
All right, well, we'll see what happens in the interim. Hopefully the bull moose comes out. We don't get the coronavirus, and we'll probably never hear about that professor again. He's either going to end up dead of the virus or on Epstein Pedo Island.
All right. Yeah. Oh, he'll commit suicide.
Right. He'll accidentally hang himself while getting stabbed in the back 17 times and shot in the back of the head. Like normal people kill themselves. All right. Well, remember, just end on a positive note. It's time to get bull moose progressive Teddy style. It's the only way forward. All right.
Hey, Elizabeth Warren's hero was Teddy Kennedy.
You mean Roosevelt?
What did I say?
You said Teddy Kennedy.
Oh, no, he was a drunk. She did a bull moose on Bloomberg. Right.
And she needs to do the same thing. Like I said, if she needs to come out on Bernie's side. He needs a friend. He basically has like no institutional support. He has a few congressmen here or there, but nothing substantial. If Elizabeth Warren, that will dictate her legacy. Will she bend a knee to support Joe Biden, who she's basically been fighting against her entire career? Or will she stand with Bernie and the Leonidas Spartans at the end of 300?
Well, I well, it's still an opinion, but if she was going to, if she was going to do what we wanted her to do, she would have stayed in the race at least for the next debate and eviscerated Biden at that debate. But she didn't. She's dropped out.
Right. Well, a lot of people wanted her to drop out because they wanted her votes to go to Bernie instead. But I understand what you're saying. And that's that's the thing. That's what she should have done. She should have Bloomberged Biden already.
Right.
That's the problem. That's why we're all left hanging in suspense. We don't know what she's going to do. But again, I've been saying this for a while now. If she comes out and supports Biden, she'll basically sacrifice and betrayed everything she ever stood for and be dead to the progressive movement forever. And she'll probably say, well, I don't want to, but we got to get behind him in order to support Biden to beat Trump. But at this point, that's not an acceptable answer if Bernie's still alive and kicking, because that's what happened last time. If she had come out to support him last time when he was running, it would have made a big difference. And she needs to do it now, and she should be his Teddy. If he either is unable or unwilling to do it, she should be the destroyer.
Right.
So what she should do is come out and say, I'm with Bernie, not me, us, we're in this together. Joe Biden is terrible for all these policies. Here's why. Don't do it. But like I said, will she bow to the king of Persia, or will she stand with Leonidas? That's the real question we have left.
Right.
And we'll have to wait and see.
Or, as a Democrat, they're just like the Republicans.
So
all the Democrats now have to be in lockstep and can't say anything negative, or they'll be Bernie.
Well, like I said, it's her choice. She either has her legacy to protect and to do the right thing, or bend the knee and become a minion of the Democratic Party / King Xerxes. That's up to her.
And by the way, as an acting senator of the state of Massachusetts, she's going to have to vote on Biden laws that he brings forward.
Right.
Oh, boy.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully she, like I said, in the end, what would Teddy do?
Right.
What would he do? He'd
create another party.
and lose, unfortunately. That's the problem.
Right.
You'll more than likely lose.
But that's what he would do.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what Bernie should have done. I still say Bernie, if in 2016, anything was possible. Both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were so despised by the majority of everyone that I really think if Bernie did go third party, he could have, I really think legitimately he could have actually won that one. But now I don't think so, because it's a totally different dynamic.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, we'll have to see is if Elizabeth Warren decides to stand with the Spartans or bend a knee to King Xerxes. We'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, let's just hope she WWTD. What would Teddy do? Let's hope she makes the right decision.
All right, so do we have time to talk about the confrontation with the Supreme Court and Chuck Schumer?
Oh, hold on for a second. So there was something else that you want to talk about. You want to talk about the, I guess, war of words that Chuck Schumer's having with the Chief Justice, which I don't know that much about. So you go ahead and tell me what's going on.
Right. Well, basically, I'll read a news clippet here. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said Thursday that he should not have used the words he used when he declared at a rally in front of the Supreme Court that two justices would pay the price for their decision in an abortion case. What it doesn't say is he was screaming mad about it, and he used the words that Brett Kavanaugh used. What Schumer said is, "You have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You will not know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions," Schumer said, naming Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. And what he was kind of loose cannon about was he was using the same terminology that Kavanaugh used in the confirmation hearings.
Oh,
Remember him ranting?
okay.
Remember Kavanaugh,
Right.
Kavanaugh was ranting. "You will face a whirlwind, blah, 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 blah." Remember how he was ranting and raving?
Yes.
So Schumer used his words. So anyway, Chief Justice John Roberts came out and rebuked him and said it was inappropriate, blah, blah, blah. And Schumer came back and says, "Well, what about when Trump slammed Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Sotomayor? How come he didn't chastise him?"
Right. So basically, like usual, so they're like raining down hellstorm on Schumer for saying one thing aggressively that one time and not complaining about Trump at like attacking the judicial system almost every day.
Right.
Like usual. And he was trying to make a point by repeating what was it Schlitz Kavanaugh said at the confirmation hearings. It's just these continued double standards over and over again.
And Schumer said he didn't back down. He says, "Look, I'm from Brooklyn. We speak in strong language.
Right.
I shouldn't have used the words I did, but in no way was I making a threat. I never would do such a thing." And Leader McConnell knows that. And Republicans who are busy manufacturing outrage over these comments know that too. Because McConnell chimed in and got himself involved, to protect his Supreme Court choices and scam of refusing Merrick Garland and that whole sordid, ugly, terribly nasty, bad affair. So that was in the news yesterday.
Oh yeah, that whole situation is so bad because even Mitch McConnell has gone on the record, even though he basically did the no precedent and disregard for the Constitution to just deny Obama's Supreme Court nominee even a hearing. But he's already gone on the record to say that he would replace somebody this year, even though it's an election year. And my idea for their excuse is like, well, we said no Supreme Court replacements during election year. That was for a new president. This is for a re-election of the same president. Rah, 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 rah. So that's going to be their excuse. If Ruth, if our...
Is that the sound of the turtle man's voice that we heard?
Yes, it was disturbing to have to hear his voice in real life. You could hear like the dead soul in his voice. But
Right.
I think, yeah, so he'll probably, like, sadly, if something happened to RGB anytime now between now and the election, they would shove in somebody so fast you wouldn't even know what their name is. And, and I really feel like that's something that hasn't been paid attention to at all during this election. Just like you said, they haven't talked about the Senate. Well, no one has really mentioned what's going to happen to the Supreme Court either. Hasn't been brought up at all. So another failure during the whole discussion of the presidential election. So
Right. And it's going to be like that because Trump knows how to keep the center of attention on his troops. And anyway,
if we could just let him go do rallies and pretend that he's president, that's all he wants. We could just we need a Truman show him and put him in a giant dome, and he could just give rallies for the rest of his life, and everybody will be happy.
I hope he gets the coronavirus.
No, don't say that. You can't wish ill will against anybody.
Why?
Because it's not the polite thing to do.
Who said I'm polite?
Well, you're an angry old man, so you can get away with that, I guess.
And look what he's done. Look what he does. It's not just talk. It's not just rally. He's judge a man by not what he says, but what he does.
Well, remember Dr. Martin Luther King says, judge a man not by his color, but the content of his character? Well, what if his character sucks? His character really, 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 really sucks. So we can judge him that way. Okay, so let's end with that. So remember, judge a man not by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. And if his character really, 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 really sucks, you can judge him negatively because it sucks.
Right.
All right.
I don't see anything wrong with that logic.
All right, so I think that'll be enough for today. We'll have plenty more to talk about as things are constantly changing during this heated election cycle, as they say. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Joy of Liberty podcast. Join us next time when we'll talk about the new issues that are facing the United States and the rest of the world today.